Hi everyone, Carter Krishnaiyer here for Beyond the 90, and I wanted to talk a little bit today about the importance of Haiti and Curaçao qualifying for the World Cup for USL and what is ahead for Jamaica potentially this week with their playoff semifinal against in that path that they're in against New Caledonia. If they win that, which they should, they would face DR Congo in the final for a spot in the 2018 World Cup, North American World Cup on the line. So the qualification of Haiti and Curaçao serves as massive proof and concept, I think, for the lower divisions in the United States in general, in terms of how many guys have played in the USL Championship, USL League One, even in the college ranks in USL League Two. And this is similar to the way I viewed the Women's World Cup and the success of CONCACAF nations in the Women's World Cup or qualifying for the Women's World Cup as a proof of concept about women's college soccer here in the United States. So when you think about some of the key impact players for Haiti and their pedigree in terms of their performances in the USL, Haitian players. Duke Lacroix, who's actually, since we're dealing with the labor situation, the president of the USL PA, Players Association, from Colorado Springs. Carl Sante, who has been a good player for many years in USL Championship with Phoenix Rising and El Paso, how much that's helped. And we saw other players who came through USL, who were in USL in the past, no longer in the league, contributing to Haiti's qualification and Curaçao's qualification. You also have now, in terms of Curaçao, who qualified for the World Cup, Eloy Room in Miami FC, Lacadia at Miami FC, who had 3 chances to score a goal against Loudoun this past weekend, but was very good. I mean, his quality was obvious. I talked about that in my Kingfisher postgame for Miami FC. Gil Margarita at Phoenix Rising. This shows that the USL can keep high-level internationals. No, not necessarily high-level internationals at the top level of international football, top European countries or South American countries, but in the Caribbean, countries that can compete in a region as weak, let's face it, as CONCACAF. There's been some success for USL players. So let's talk about Jamaica, because for a long time, Jamaica has done well in CONCACAF competitions and have had USL guys as part of that core in their 2015 and 2017 runs to the Gold Cup final and in past qualifying campaigns. Now, Jamaica is a bit of a mess because they constantly are bringing in high-level players from the Premier League who have Jamaican parentage, but have grown up in the UK. So that makes the Jamaican side kind of a mishmash. And this pattern started in 1998 when Jamaica did qualify for the one World Cup they qualified for. And there were a number of players in Major League Soccer who had played a key role in helping Jamaica qualify. And those guys were dropped for the likes of Robbie Earl. I will just mention Robbie Earl, Dwight Gale, players like that. Robbie Earl is very well known, obviously, to American audiences now from his work at NBC. But those were English players of Jamaican heritage that were then brought into the Jamaican national team after they qualified. And we've seen some of this in recent qualifying cycles where you would have the likes of Bobby Cordova, Reed, Mikel Antonio, Ethan Pinnock, these really high-level Premier League players. Mikel Antonio was such a fantastic player at his height at West Ham. Really a player that probably England should have capped before he got capped for Jamaica. But they made that mistake, so that was Jamaica's gain. Those guys. But then you have other players, if you get further down the pool, that are USL guys. Jamali Wade, who has had... has he even conceded a goal yet for Tampa Bay? I don't think so. He's kept a couple clean sheets in a row to start the season. He's in this Jamaica team. If they make the World Cup, he will be part of that World Cup squad, competing with Andre Blake, who's phenomenal, as we know, as I think every fan in this country knows, for that #1 shirt. Kevon Lambert is a guy that is going to be a core player for Jamaica if they can qualify for the World Cup, who is, of course, another USL guy, Deshaun Beckford, a guy we're very, very familiar with in this league and have seen a lot of, another guy that will be, I believe, in the Jamaican World Cup squad if they make the World Cup. So you often hear the USL from critics, whether they're MLS fans or they're just kind of ignorant people. There's no one I want to watch in the USL. There's no player of pedigree. There's nothing of value. No, I think that's been answered in the last couple of weeks with the signing of Mark Anthony Kaye and Sebastian Leggett, two very, very well-known players from MLS. And Leggett has been a core United States men's national team player. Mark Anthony Kaye, a core CanMNT, a Canadian men's national team player through the years. And Mark Anthony Kaye, I'm told, has an outside shot. Not a great shot, but an outside shot of working his way back into this World Cup roster for Canada under Jesse Marsch. So you could have a guy playing for Canada who is one of the co-hosts in a squad I think that has a pretty fair chance of advancing from the group they're in. Assuming Italy actually qualifies, I don't put any faith in Italy's ability to beat Canada, honestly. I don't put faith in Italy's ability to beat anyone. They might lose to Northern Ireland and be done in a day or two from now. That's what happened against North Macedonia last time. But I think that would be great if Mark Anthony Kaye could somehow work his way into the Canadian side. I think it's a long shot. Canada has a really deep player pool, but certainly if he gets games and performs at a good level in the next 6 to 8 weeks, he has a shot. So I think USL has been very, very interested in the Caribbean for a long time, and thinking that this was a place where they could broaden the kind of player pool and the perception of the league was via the Caribbean. And if Jamaica qualifies, we're talking about at least 3 more USL guys being in a World Cup. And that gives the league the sort of elite level validation that I think it needs. I don't necessarily, I'm not a huge fan of international football, and I think there are guys that have 50 caps for whatever country that are not as good at the club level as guys who have never been capped for their country. But there is a perception, particularly in the United States, where I think we're more driven by the international game. The culture is evolving in this country, but we're more driven by the international game than maybe we should be. And we are more driven by the international game than people in Europe are. In fact, this has been, when I've gone to Germany, it's been commented to me, why are you guys so into the national team? Hey, you guys have won a bunch of World Cups and Euros. Yeah, but we're not as club over country, country over club as you guys are. We're more club over country, or hey, we got the club, and then tournament time we have the country. Although actually now I don't think the television ratings for the German national team in Germany are terrible. You think the U.S. men's national team television ratings are bad here, which they are, right? They're doing worse than other forms of high-level football. They do worse than the Champions League or Premier League, much worse on television. Being on TNT, I don't think has helped either. But the ratings had already begun to go down on ESPN and Fox long before they moved to Turner. Germany, compare the numbers for German men's national team games versus Bundesliga matches in Germany on television. You'd be shocked. You'd be stunned. It's a country that's fallen out of love with the national team. Maybe that changes this summer, and I think a part of it is Nagelsmann understands, hey, I can't just call 16 Bayern guys out in a 23-man squad. Okay, let's make this a German national team, not FC Bayern, because of the influence of well, and also now the DFB is with Nike. So they've broken kind of the attachment to Adidas and Bayern. So this wasn't supposed to be a video about Germany. It was supposed to be about Jamaica, Haiti, and Curaçao. So let's get back to that. So I think there will be a perception of stronger depth in USL if a Jamaican squad, which features the likes of Leon Bailey and any number of other Pinnick, I should really pull up who else is on the Jamaican national team that's been called in this time. I should do that as we're recording. But if you look at top USL players being on the same roster as the likes of some of these players, and let's look and see who they've called in this time, and who they include. If you're talking about, so we mentioned Jamali Waite from the Tampa Bay Rowdies, Amal Knight from Greenville, Triumph in League One. So would be on the same squad as Joel Ladderbear, who's been one of the best players in the championship this year. Ethan Pinnock, we mentioned, is a Premier League player. Leon Bailey, a highly decorated Premier League player. Kevon Lambert has been called in, so he'd be on the same squad as a Leon Bailey. Bobby Cordova-Reed, who was a great player for many years for Fulham, is in this squad. Damari Gray is in this squad. Jamal Lowe is in this squad. Tyrese Campbell is in this squad. Ephraim Mason Clark is going to get has gotten his first call up for Jamaica. He's been one of the best players in the championship this year. So you're talking about USL players being in the same squad as some of these players. So that's to me kind of proof in concept of the success of USL and that it is a competitive level. And so this could be very, very big for the league and big for lower division soccer in the United States in general if Jamaica qualifies.